Good morning. Welcome to Adult Sunday School on our series on biblical financial stewardship. So this is week 3 in our series. And so today we have some exciting things to discuss as we get started. We're going to talk about planning today. Planning. And the Bible has a lot to say about planning, about the importance of planning. So we see Noah prepared for the flood. That was quite a lot of preparation. Preparing the ark, preparing the animals, preparing the food. We don't know all of everything he had to do, but we do know he had to prepare a lot for the flood. Joseph prepared and planned for the famine. He knew what to do to make preparations so that they could have enough when the famine came. And then Joshua planned for the conquest of Jericho. He had very specific plans about how they were going to march around the walls and what was going to do and when the trumpets were going to be sounded and all that. And then the conquest of Ai also had specific plans associated with it. When they did the second one, when they went behind the city and they split into 2 groups and how they organized that, they did a lot of planning there. Gideon had a plan to conquer the Midianites. So after God told him, you've got too many, and he narrowed down the groups to a smaller group, Gideon still, after that, he had a plan. He put together a plan of how they were going to have pitchers and trumpets and what they were going to do to conquer the Midianites. David planned abundantly for the temple. He didn't build it. All he did was plan for it. He did all of the planning in advance for building the temple. Nehemiah prepared to build the wall. He did his surveys in advance. He went out at night and looked at things and made ready to prepare to rebuild the wall. And then not just Bible characters that we can think of, but in Proverbs 30:25 it talks about the ants preparing for the time when there's no food. And then some other things that we can see in Scripture about planning. We're told to prioritize our needs. So we need to take the things that we need and prioritize them and make sure that we're hitting the things that are the biggest priority, the most important things, doing those first. Proverbs 24:3 through 4 says, "Through wisdom is a house built and filled with treasure." That's not a quote. That's my paraphrase of it. But how are you going to build a house and fill it with treasure? Through wisdom. That's how it's going to happen. Diligence brings riches. So you can't have riches through some sort of lackadaisical, half-hearted effort. It is through diligence that happens. A prudent man sees the consequences of his choice. So a person who isn't prudent wouldn't think about the consequences of the choice he's making. But a prudent man is going to look down the road and say, if I do this today, this is what's going to happen in the future. And if I do this instead, this is the other consequence. So the prudent man sees the consequences of his choices. And then Proverbs 21:5 reminds us that haste leads to want. So when we're hasty and we're not thinking through things, we're not planning, then that's going to lead to want. And then Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us that even good things should be done at appropriate times. So not everything that is good should be done all of the time. Sometimes you have multiple things that are good, and this thing should be done at this time, and this thing should not. And that's part of planning, is deciding when those things should happen. Even if they're all good things and things that should happen, it's deciding when they should happen and planning for those things. And then James 1:5 says, "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him." So let's ask God for wisdom as we talk about planning our finances. Dear Lord, I pray that you would help us as we look at these practical things about planning our finances. Give us the wisdom that we need to do that. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. A typical American spending plan looks something like this. Hooray, I got a paycheck. Yes, it's the start of the month. I've got more money in the bank account. This is great. I can do stuff now. And, I got to get my morning coffee. And then, you know what? They just released the iPhone 7. So I've got to go get one. This is just the latest and greatest. I got to have one, right? So I'll go get that. And then, you know what? I got debt payments. Okay, I'll take care of my debt payments. Yeah, pay the minimum, whatever. Get that out of the way. And then, you know what? I heard this restaurant. Someone recommended. It's a really great restaurant. I haven't eaten there. Let's go out. Let's eat at that restaurant. Let's have some food there today. Oh, I got to get gas for the car. Yeah, okay, pay for that. Oh, the electric bill. Okay, yeah, got to pay the electric bill. Groceries, sure, everyone needs groceries. Got to buy some food. Okay, I'll buy some food. Rent, mortgage, okay, big chunk of change there, just put out there. Oh, there's some new shoes, and I've been wanting those. I've been keeping my eye on them, and they are at a fantastic price today. I just got to pick them up. Let's do that. Dental appointment, okay, got to get my teeth taken care of, whatever. And got to get another coffee today, and I got a magazine subscription, okay, newspaper, whatever, got to pay for that. Insurance, okay, yeah, I don't have any choice. Got to pay for insurance on the house, on the car, all that sort of stuff. I'm too tired now to, make any food. I'm just going to go out and get something. And, the kids need school supplies. Let me go buy their school supplies, get that taken care of. And I have this project. I saw something at Hobby Lobby. I got to get some stuff there. Let me pick up that stuff and take it home so I can work on that project. Got to get gas again. And another coffee today. And let's not do anything. Let's just get a pizza today. You come to the end of the month and you're like, you're not even at the end of the month. Maybe you're partway through the month and you're like, wait, where did all the money go? It's gone. I don't have any more of my paycheck left. What do I do? Because you know what? I got to go buy more groceries. I bought some at the start of the month, but now it's toward the end of the month. I don't have enough money. What do I do? I've got to go buy groceries. It's like I can't go without the groceries. I mean, it's not like things that I'd like to have, like cake and pie and stuff. I got to go buy bread and milk. These are things that we got to have and we need to have so that we can survive here. And so what do? Well, what most Americans do then is they say, I have to have this, so I'm going to put it on my credit card and I'm going to go into debt for this. And then you just repeat the cycle again the next month. You start out the month, you're excited about the paycheck, you do normal stuff, life happens, and suddenly you're without money again toward the end of the month, and you say, what do? I'm just put it on the credit card because I have to have this now. So let's think about an alternative spending plan. So I took most of those things that we had listed before, and I just listed them out here. All of the different things that our typical Americans spent money on. Of course, I'm leaving things out. I'm just kind of generalizing, but it works for our example here, and I think you can apply it to your own spending, to your own life. So, how do you create an alternative spending plan? A way to spend your money, a way to plan for the spending of your money that isn't like what we were just looking at. What you need to do is you need to take some time. You need to set aside a block of time and say, this 2-3 hour time frame is when we're going to work on planning our spending for the month. And at first, it's going to be quite a long time. 3 hours, maybe more, maybe a little less. But the first time you do this, it's going to take a little while. But as you get better at it month by month, it will get shorter and shorter and shorter. And if you're single, it might be shorter. I give 3 hours for a married couple to initially do it, to set aside some time to think about your finances, to plan your spending for the month. So I want you to think about the whole month, not just the time frame of your paycheck, which it could be a month, it could not be a month. I don't want you to think about the time frame of your bills. I want you to think of a time frame of a month. It's small enough that it's manageable, but it's large enough that some of the variances in spending even out, and so it's a good time frame to use. So the first thing then you should do, you should get a list of your spending from the last month. Try to remember what you spent money on, things that you spent money on. Just list them all down and say, here's the stuff I spent money on. And you're going to miss some things. That's okay. We'll talk about that later. But just put down everything you're spending money on, just so you know what it is. Pull out some bills if you need to. Jot down how much you're spending on each of those things. Pull out that electric bill and see, okay, looks like it was this much. And then if you've got a couple of them, you can do, it's an average of about this much, and kind of get an idea of where that bill is. Then you look through your list and you see, like, I've got gas up here and I have gas down here. So it's the same thing. So I'm going to combine those. I'm not going to have a separate spending category for gas here and gas over here. It's all going to be one category. And then you're going to do the same thing for some other things. So there we combine gas. Here you combine the two eating out things. Doesn't matter that it's a different restaurant. Here we combine the coffees into one. Here I combine the groceries. Here with the groceries that we wanted to buy or bought on credit over here into one groceries category. And then you can refine it further. You can see, well, this coffee, that's really kind of an eating out expense because I could have made coffee at home, but I didn't. So we'll combine those over here with the restaurant category, and we'll have one eating out restaurant category. So we're going to simplify what this all looks like. So here I dropped out those other ones. And then we're going to simplify the naming. So when you're initially creating your list, you're going to I spent money going to that new restaurant to eat out. Well, it doesn't need to be that complex. It's a category that's going to encompass a lot of things. So we want to simplify the naming. So here I simplified some of these names down to the category of spending that it is. So then we're going to take what our paycheck is for the month, and we're going to fill in the required non-discretionary spending. So that's what this is what that looks like. So for example, your rent. Yes, you could sell your house or move out to a smaller house, rent a smaller place, and you could reduce that amount. But that would be a major change in your life, and it may be something you need to look at if your bills are too high, or if your rent or mortgage are out of whack financially, like we talked about in the last lesson. But if it's on track, if it's within reason, then that's going to stay relatively the same. It may fluctuate if you have tax changes, insurance changes that are rolled into your mortgage. But in general, it's going to stay the same and it's non-discretionary. You're going to pay it. If you want to stay in the house, you're going to pay it every month. So it's non-discretionary. So you're going to put that down. Car insurance, your electric bill. Yes, you can affect your electric bill some. You can, say we're going to make a concerted effort to make sure we're turning off lights and not using things, making sure things are turned off that we're not using. But in general, you're not going to affect it to a great degree. So it's required non-discretionary spending. So then next we're going to fill in some of the more discretional but required spending. So, for example, groceries. You say it's non-discretional. I have to have groceries every month. Well, yes, to some extent you do. But groceries is one of those categories where you can spend just a little and still have enough to eat that month, or you can spend a lot on it. So it is rather flexible and variable. And so I put that more on the discretional spending, because a lot of our groceries type spending is discretional when we really examine it hard and think about, do I really need to buy ice cream? Or is that really discretional? Yes, it's really discretional technically. So then next, so we had some categories here that still don't have anything. They're not required. They wouldn't be considered our minimum required spending, our base minimum that we would need to have to survive. But if you have money left over from the paycheck, then you say, well, okay, where should that go now? And so that's when you want to start considering these other categories and saying, what's important to me? What are my priorities? What do I think should happen? And which things do I think are more important than other things? So maybe you say, eating out is extremely important to me. I have to have a meal out at least, N times a month. And so you say, I'm going to allocate some funds there. That is my highest priority of my discretional spending. And then you say, subscriptions, I got to have this newspaper, this magazine, whatever, this is very important to me. And you say, well, I don't have enough left over to buy that new phone, but I'm going to take some of it and some of the money, and I'm going to put it toward that new phone. So I'm going to put it in a category for it because I really want that new phone. But even though I don't have enough for it, I'm going to put something away here for it so that eventually I can get it, because it is an important thing to me. And then you think about it and you say, you know what? Of all these things that I have here, this project that I wanted to do, it's actually the least important thing to me. But I still want to do it. So I don't have money this month because, I'm putting it toward these other things, and I probably won't stop putting it toward subscriptions or eating out. But when I get that new phone, I'll probably stop putting it there, so maybe then I can put it over here. So you leave the category there, even though you have nothing to put in it. And that's okay, to have a category that you don't put anything in. But, so your paycheck here that you started out with, you should plan it all. Take every dollar that came in to your paycheck and make a conscious decision about where it goes. Say, this dollar's going here, this dollar's going here, do it in chunks, obviously. But make sure every dollar is allocated and has a plan and a purpose and a goal as part of your this planning exercise. So, now we have a spending plan. We have everything allocated here. And the $5 doesn't necessarily mean that you're putting the same amount in all of those. I'm just saying this is fully allocated. $5 it's fully allocated. It's got as much as it needs in that fund to satisfy that requirement. All the smaller ones, they're all discretional, so they have some smaller amount. It's not to indicate any exact quantity, it's just a representation for our purposes here. So, you've got your spending plan, and you're ready to start the month, and you're not a couple days into the month, and suddenly life happens. Something comes up that you didn't have in your spending plan. You have a medical bill of some sort, and you say, this isn't part of this over here. I don't have any dollars now. It's all for this stuff. I don't have any dollars to put over there in medical. It's okay. Just calm down and remember that meeting you had to set all this up. we have another one with your spouse. It's a brief meeting. It doesn't have to be long. It could be less than 5 minutes. And it's just to say, okay, a new priority came up. What are we going to do about this new priority? Because this new priority, yeah, it's more important than some of our other priorities. So we have to decide which dollars go to that new priority. That new priority needs some dollars, so let's decide where we can take those from. And so in our case, we decide, well, we can take some dollars from new phone. Maybe we have a bunch of money saved up there over time, and we say, I can take a big chunk of it from there. Or maybe even just have a little, and you just have whatever came in this month, and you say, well, but it's going to delay it another month before I get that new phone, but it's a lower priority. And then you say, you know what, I'm going to cut my eating in half maybe, eating out in half. I'm going to take some of that money over there. And so you're going to reprioritize things, and you're going to make a conscious decision about where your money should go. And in this case, to this new medical account, this category that you need to spend money on. Similarly, you can say, you know what, it's almost the end of the month, but I'm in the same situation I was before. I need to buy groceries, and the groceries fund here is empty. I've already spent it all. But again, this is a need that I have to have. Okay, that's fine. You have another brief meeting, and you say, what are my priorities? And you think about it, and you say, well, I have to have food, so that has become a priority. And maybe you can even think back and say, you know what, I know why this happened. It's because I did buy ice cream, and if I hadn't bought that, then I would have money for bread today, but I bought that ice cream, so I don't have money for bread. So you realize what happened that caused the problem, but that doesn't make the problem go away. You already have the problem. So you have to solve it in some way. So you say, I have to find something that is a lower priority than this bread that I have to buy. Okay, so maybe you say, well, I need some money in clothing, but it looks like I'm doing okay there, so I'm going to take some money out of the clothing category, and I'm going to put it in the groceries category. I'm saying that whatever I have in the clothing category, that amount that I need to take out of it is less important to be there than it is to be in the grocery category. So I'm going to move that money over there. It's a real brief, real simple. Looks like we have more money here, so we need to move it over here, and we're going to reprioritize our spending that way. Make it intentional. Know the trade-offs that you're making. So most people don't make it intentional. They don't know the trade-offs that they're making. They don't think about that. Now, let's say it's the 28th, toward the end of the month, and you see those shoes that we talked about. They look great. They're at a great price. You've been keeping an eye on them. And you check the spending plan, and even though you took out some for food over here, you notice I still have enough in that clothing category to buy those shoes. So you know what you're going to do? You're going to buy those shoes. And you're going to do so completely guilt-free, knowing that you haven't damaged anything else in your spending plan. That you know still that you're going to have enough to cover, your gas and your paycheck and or your education and your car insurance. You know you're going to have enough to cover those things because those things are covered in your spending plan. Your spending plan made sure that car insurance had enough for it. So you have no hesitation to buy something out of your clothing category when you have enough in that category because you know those other things are going to be taken care of. And then you say, wait a minute, I remember your last lesson where you talked about debt, and you've got debt here, and you're making discretional spending Yes, yes, that is wrong. That is so wrong. So, new phone, yeah, that should go. Eating out, yeah, that should go. Subscriptions, yeah, that should probably go too. Clothing, you can't cut it to zero probably, but you probably should cut it down to its bare minimum because you're in debt. So if you have this debt category here, and that is something that you have to put money toward, then you should be eliminating all this discretional spending so that you can focus on paying off your debt. And remember what we talked about in the last lesson, you should be saving towards your emergency fund first, and then when your emergency fund has $1,000 1 month of expenses in it, then you should start paying down your debt and putting all you can of your discretionary spending against your debt to pay that off. So then when that category is eliminated and you say, I don't have any debt now, then you can fall back and start doing the discretional spending and deciding, where does my discretional spending go? What are my priorities in my areas where I have a choice about how I spend my money? Okay, so budget worksheet. So this is the first place where I say budget. So a spending plan is just a budget. It's just another name for it. A budget is a shorter word to say than spending plan. But it is your spending plan. It's your plan for how you're going to spend your money. And can I get someone to see that? So this is my budget worksheet, and we're going to go through it real quick. You can look on the screen until you have one in your hands to look at. So up at the top left, it has a category. So you'll take those categories that you created, that you said, I'm spending money on this and this and this and this and this, and you'll list those across the top. These are my categories, the things that I'm spending money on. And then carryover, that's anything you had left in the category from last month is called a carryover. It's carrying it over from last month into this month. Initially, your carryover will be whatever you have in your bank account. So you go look at your bank account, see what's in there, see how much money you have, and pretend it's a paycheck, and pay yourself into the categories and put it in the carryover. You say, but I spend all of my paycheck every month. Well, that's okay. You have no carryover then. When you start budgeting, you should start having carryover. So then you budget your paycheck. You take all of your income from the month, maybe not just one paycheck, could be multiple paychecks, and you budget those for the month. And so you put that amount of money under each category. That should be flipping through here. Put your carryover, you put your budgeted amount, and I just made up some numbers, so these are ridiculous numbers. But you put your budgeted amount in there, and then you add your carryover and your budgeted to get your balance. So that's where you are at with those categories at the start of the month, or right now, wherever the time is that you're doing this. So in our example here, we have $160 in the food category. That means we are free and clear to go out and spend $160 this month on the food category. So that as new expenses come in, as your expenses for the month come in, you went to the store, you bought some groceries, $75.43 worth, you've got $84.57 left in that category. And you're going to repeat this as other expenses come in. Rent took it down to zero, gas you got some, and then food went down some more as you bought some more food. So at any given time, you can go to this page and you look at the bottom of that category and you can see food has this much, rent has this much, gas has this much. You can know how much money you have in every category you have. So you say, but I have more categories than will fit. We'll just put two pages side by side and just carry them all over. And you say, but I have more expenses in a category. I buy food an awful lot. And so it just keeps going down. We'll just add another sheet below it and just repeat the category and then just continue putting your expenses in there. So this isn't an ideal way. I think the ideal way is to do it on a computer, but this is a way that works. And there's other ways you can do this. There's a notebook, there's envelope systems, and I've talked about those in my previous class. But I wanted to make sure that you understood conceptually what the computer programs are doing, because this is how they work. And if you want to do it this way, it works. It's fine. There is no problem with it whatsoever. You got to do a little math every month as you add your things and subtract your expenses, but you can do it. So, budget applications. There are a lot of budget applications out there, and most of them are junk. I've tried a lot of them. There's a lot of financial applications that tack a budget onto them that are junk too. But there are 3 that I've found, and this is an increase from last time. Last time there were only 2. There's 3 now that I've found that are pretty good. So one is called envelopes. I haven't used this one extensively. I did try it out, but that's all. It's a pretty expensive one, but it's an option out there that you can look at if you want to. Every Dollar is a brand new application that wasn't around the last time that I gave a biblical stewardship class. Every Dollar is a Dave Ramsey product. He spent a lot of money, built a brand new application. It's web-based. It's coming along in features. They've added a lot since they initially launched it. It now supports Android in addition to Apple phones. It does have some downsides, some pretty severe ones in my mind. It has a free version. So if you hear free and you say, that's it for me, then you can try it out. In my opinion, the free version doesn't have enough to make it usable beyond what the paper method is. The only thing that it does for you that the paper method doesn't do is it does the math. But it requires a lot of data entry unless you buy their paid subscription version, which will download your transactions for you so you don't have to do all the data entry. So the one I still recommend, and I think is still the best one out there on the market, is You Need a Budget, or YNAB for short. So YNAB also went through a dramatic change since the last time. It used to be a desktop application where you would download it and run it on your computer, and that's how it did. They now did a ground up rewrite. It is now a web-based application, and it's in some ways it's better than the desktop application, and it has a few things that are still missing from the desktop application, but it's getting there. I actually, before they came out with the web-based version, I bought a copy of a copy to give away of the desktop application. So if anyone here is interested in running the desktop version of You Need a Budget, come talk to me, and if you're going to commit to using it, it's yours. I'll give it to you. I need to give it to someone. And even if you say, well, I'm not sure enough about it to use it, you can still go download it. If you want to use the desktop application, you can still go download it, and you can still use it. Okay, so why do I think YNAB is the best? So there's a lot of reasons, but I'll just list a couple here for sake of time. It treats a budget as a spending plan, not a spending tracker or static allocation system. What do I mean by that? Okay, some financial applications, they're more backward looking. You set up a budget, and then you wait till the end of the month, and then it kind of looks back and says, here's where you fell short. Here. Do better. but it's not a dynamic living thing. You can't look at any time in the month and see, this is how much I have available in this category. It's more of a static thing toward the end. Some of them are even not as good as that. Some of them are just take this amount of money and split it up into these categories based on these percentages. Which static? It doesn't change.
Okay.
So what it is this month, sorry, it's programmer comes out of me. So what it is this month, it's the same next month, it's the same next month.
As opposed to dynamic.
As opposed to dynamic, yes. Because a good budget application is dynamic. You can say, mid-month, I don't have enough money in my grocery category, I'm going to reallocate over here, I'm going to move these funds around, and it's going to work for you. It's going to live with you. And because your priorities never stay the same. Your priorities at the start of the month aren't necessarily your priorities even a week from that time. You say, I have new priorities. I no longer care about this thing, but I do care about this thing. Or I still care about that thing, but I care about this thing more. So I'm going to reprioritize things. And a good budget application should be able to do that easily for you. It's easy to use. They spend a lot of time on their graphics. They make it a very nice to look at application, easy to move. They've thought very much about the flow between different things. They pre-fill things for you a lot. It's very easy to use. It's available everywhere. It's on the web, it's on the iPhone, it's on the Android. So let me just talk briefly about the Android application, which I just think is great. The iPhone application is the same, but so if I go to somewhere, let's say Lowe's, I go to Lowe's and I buy something at Lowe's. Usually I buy stuff on my lunch break or whatever, and so I come out and I've got my receipt. I just picked up my receipt off the register. What do? I flip out my phone, I hit the YNAB application, I enter in the amount, I click done, I shut it, put it in my pocket. That's it. So the application uses the GPS on the phone to know where I am, and it knows based on where I am that I'm at Lowe's, because I've been there before and I've entered transactions before. The first time I was there, it didn't do that. I had to tell it I'm at Lowe's. Every time after that, it knew I'm at Lowe's. And it knows the date because that's on the phone. It knows the category because it knows that when I go to Lowe's, I usually buy stuff for the home improvement category. So it's going to default to that category. Now, if I was buying something for a gift or something, I'd have to go change the category. But if I was buying what I usually buy there, home improvement type stuff, then it would automatically go into that category. So all I have to do is open my phone, enter the amount, I'm done. Simple, fast, easy, and as soon as I do that, it shows me my updated balance for that category, so I know how much I have left in that category. Oh look, I'm down to zero. Well, I can't spend any more this month on that category. Angela knows then immediately too, because it's all in sync with the desktop application. So if Angela opens that up at home, she sees, oh look, Lee just spent money on this, and it's all there for her to see. YNAB is frequently updated. Even with the desktop application, it was frequently updated. I get updates, every couple months or so, and they add features and things. It is the least expensive. So when I say it's the least expensive of those three that I consider to be usable budget applications. $5 a month or $50 a year. Now that's what the new web-based application, that's what they charge. So you say $50 a year, and it's a reoccurring expense now. That's still a lot, or that is a lot. Well, they've done studies, and people who use YNAB save an average of $200 in their first month, and I think it was over the course of 6 months they save an average of $3,300. No, 9 months. $3,300. So it pays for itself. And I think probably if they compared it to other people who started using other budget applications that were real, genuine budget applications, they would see a similar change. So if you say, I can't do that, I'm not going to pay that much. Okay, so start out on paper and do it on paper. But I think you'll find that the benefits of having it on the computer, of being able to access it on your phone, of being able to work with a spouse on it, it works a whole lot better. So if you do it on paper, it's only updated as often as your paper gets updated. But if I update my phone at Lowe's and enter that transaction, it's already updated on the home computer. Nothing more has to be done. YNAB has free live classes. This means classes where you can actually talk to a person who is actually there, and they're free. So they'll march you through how to use the application. I haven't actually done one of their classes. I've just seen all of the stuff they have about them, and they actually have dedicated trainers on their staff who are giving these free classes so people can use the product, so they can budget, so they can use it to turn their life around and to have a better financial picture. So they have lots of informational stuff on their website too. I was just looking at it the other day, and I came across a 9-page guide with multiple videos on it of how to budget with your spouse and how that will make your marriage better. I just, wow. I thought, most stuff you find, it's going to focus on the budgeting, the software itself, how to use the software, that sort of thing. And it may mention that budgeting will help your marriage, but that's all it will do. This had a 9-page document detailing how it would help. And it talked about how you should set up the meetings, and how your meetings can actually be, dates, and you can actually make this your time when you become closer, because you're talking about your goals. You're talking about how you should plan out your money, what should happen in the future. And YNAB did that, so I just thought it was great. And they have a whole bunch of other stuff on their website. And then this is something new in the most recent version of the application. It tracks goals and progress. So you can actually say, I have this goal, I want to have this much in this account by this date, and it'll track it for you, and it'll show you nice graphs and tell you, well, you have to put this much every month into that category in order to meet that goal. And so you can set goals for yourself, and I think that's a very helpful feature. Proverbs 24, verses 3 through 4, and we mentioned this before, says, through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about using wisdom to build our house. And the Bible tells us that's the way that our chambers are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. You don't have those things by not thinking about them. You have to plan for them. You have to plan for the things that you need. And then you won't get caught at the end of the month with needs that can't be met and say, I need to go into debt. I need to have this debt. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I pray that you help us with our finances. Help each one here to be able to spend the time they need to plan their spending. Give us wisdom as we do it. We ask in Jesus' name. We're dismissed.